Yeah, it goes everybody, because here we'll continue on with a game called The Devil's Whisper. Where were we? Continue. Let's see. Chapter 4. Yeah, I think we're on chapter 4. Maybe there's something here. Nope. Yeah, we are in chapter 4. Let's go. I don't want to talk about it, okay? Oh, sure. Wait a second. Let me just put it here. There you go. We were silent for a few seconds, not knowing how to continue the conversation. Sometimes it bothered me a little that Andrew was so introspective with those kinds of details. I could understand his concern since he's my brother, but I never get involved in issues that have to do with him and Amelia. I don't like to bother with those kinds of issues. So it seemed unfair that he wanted to get into it. He had no right. However, something much more important caught my attention, and that in fact was the reason we were talking. Andrew, what are you doing in Dad's office at this hour? I said cautiously, trying not to pressure him into saying anything he didn't wanna.
Huh?
Well, I was just looking for something. Well, that's obvious, but what were you looking for? Looking for something of yours inside Dad's things. No, it's not that. Mad, do you remember those trips Dad used to make? Trips? What trips? When we were kids, Dad used to travel a lot, to one of those little towns that he loved to go so much. Oh yeah, that's right. I have only vague memories, but I guess so. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, I know this is going to sound far-fetched to you, but I think maybe we could start looking for answers in one of those places. I stared at him as I tried to process what he was telling me, and the connection between Dad and what was happening to us. I knew it. I knew you were going to give me that look. Oh, of course I'm going to give you a weird look. Andrew, why would some random trips Dad was taking to the countryside have anything to do with this whole series of events that are happening to us? Look, think about it just for a second. Apparently, nothing that has happened to us has a clear connection to the motivation. That is, from an outsider's point of view, they're just isolated events that happen to us because of bad luck. Only we believe that something is happening to us because we are suffering it. I had a hard time seeing it that way too, but look at this. Andrew took a notebook from one of those boxes and looked for a particular page. He then showed me the notebook and placed it in my hands. Written on the pages were some of Dad's notes about the tribes that originated in Ricerfield, as well as pictures of small towns and places far from the city. I still don't understand what it has to do with this. Look at the bottom. As I looked to where he pointed me, I noticed a small note containing an address underlined in red and with many arrows pointing to it. Broken Field River Mouth. I read the text on the note and then returned to my gaze to Andrew. I tried to say something else, but he wouldn't let me. Please, listen to me. We know that someone is doing the five of us some kind of witchcraft or something like that, right? Uh-huh. So the person must have used that weird book that we found. Yeah, that's right. You said that book was used by the tribes that inhabited Ricerfield, according to what you found in the library today. So if Dad was researching the tribes that originated in the Ricerfield area, that must be the ideal place to look for information. I couldn't deny that Andrew was right about something, but my mind was still having trouble, trying to figure out how we were going to pull off such a complicated plan. Well, let's assume that the answer lies in going to this address, which God knows how true it'll be. How the hell are we going to get there, and how are we going to get back? Anyway, then we'll figure out our way to get there. The important thing is that we have a safe address where we can find some kind of much more accurate answer. And who's to assure that it's not a dangerous place? We don't know anything, Andrew. Madison, Dad couldn't be wrong. You knew him perfectly well. You know what it was like. He was crazy and sometimes he made impulsive decisions, but he was always listened to his heart, and he was right. I looked toward Dad's bookcase and walked toward it, my back to Andrew. Certainly Dad was the person with the craziest ideas we knew, but he always got his way. He would achieve his goals, accomplish his all aims, but all with the help of my mom's company and his motivations, us. That was what he always told me every day for our lives. He reminded us how important we were to him. I don't know, Andy, I'm not entirely convinced. Oh, don't tell me that. Come on, Madison, when did you become so fearful? One of the things Dad liked most about you was your personality. Andrew walked up to me from behind and placed one of his hands on my right shoulder. At this point, he had already realized how difficult this topic was for me. A tear was trickling down my face, and although I couldn't be seen by Andrew, he knew exactly how I felt. We shared the same sense of loss. I miss him so much, you know. I miss his advice, his craziness. I miss all that about him. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't feel the same way. This hour is always the perfect time to remember him. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't miss his presence in this house and in our lives. Even Mom isn't the same, have you noticed? Lately she smiles and pretends everything is fine just like before. But at night, if you listen through her bedroom door, you hear wailing and sobbing. Tears were streaming from my eyes. If there was a remote possibility that Andrew didn't notice, at that point it was impossible to disguise it. Andrew remained silent and waited for me to finish speaking. No wonder Mom spends most of the day here, in Dad's office. No wonder she takes things, his clothes, his accessories, his notes, everything. Can't imagine. I imagine it's her way of dealing with the grief and feeling a little bit close to him at the same time, don't you think? I didn't get an immediate response to my question. Instead, Andrew just felt silent and pretended not to feel the same pain. He swallowed his tears and his urge to cry. I could almost feel the lump in his throat myself. After a few moments, when he felt ready to speak without bursting into tears, Andrew broke the silence. That's why we can't throw away everything Dad has done. Don't you feel like it's a sign? It's like a message from Dad to guide us through all this. This is his way of now leaving us alone and continuing to protect us. Holy crap. Listen to this emotional manipulation using Dad's death so that I turned to Andrew and sighed deeply. My arms were still crossed, but at least I could contain myself enough not to cry in front of him.
I love you, Andrew.
What was that for? I stretched out my arms and walked over to him, holding him as tightly as I could.
I love you so much, little brother. I know I rarely tell you that, and I know we argue a lot, but I really love you so much. Our connection is something I'll never have with anyone else.
That's why they call it sibling affection, don't you think?
I guess.
I let go of Andrew and not a few seconds past the talk. You thought I was going to notice, didn't you?
Huh?
What do you mean? I know you want to cry too. Andrew was surprised for a moment, but quickly tried to disguise his expression with something to contradict me.
Cry? Please. You know that I...
I'm a man. Tears slowly trickled from my dear brother's right eye. I just gazed at his face as we waited for both of us to feel a little better. You miss Amelia too, don't you? Oh, great. Both emotionally manipulating each other. I use Dad's death and you use Amelia's missing. Guess we really are brother and sister. It's impossible not to. You know, I still remember all too clearly everything that happened to Dad. When Mom got a call and learned of Dad's death from a sudden heart attack. I remember her expression. And I remember it just like I can relive it right now. It's unbelievable, but it's been 2 years since then. That's why I'm afraid. Because of the passage of time, you mean. It's not just that. I'm afraid of reliving the same thing. I'm afraid they'll call and tell me Amelia's dead. I live on my cell phone, waiting with great dread for the moment when we receive similar news. Could be any of us. We are no longer certain that we will be able to wake up tomorrow. Sorry for this question, but how can you live so calmly knowing that you are never going to see Conrad again? I knew he was going to ask me that. I knew him so well. But in the face of such a thing, I had nothing else to answer. Just the cruel truth. I don't know what peacefulness is. It just seems like a joke, but Conrad was and is a person who represents a lot to me. Our relationship may have been complex and incomprehensible to others, but we both understood each other well. Believe me, it was the most bitter feeling I've felt in a time. I was more surprised than I was about Dad because I didn't think something that bad could happen to me again. I refused to accept that I would have to go through it again. Andrew, I'm scared too. The last few nights have been hell. I can barely sleep, and when I do, it's just nightmare after nightmare. And you know me better than anyone. This is hard for everyone, it definitely is.
But I'm not giving up, Andrew. I'm not going to. I've never been one to let adversity defeat me. And this is no exception. Even though I'm exhausted, I'm not gonna rest until I find a solution. You know what? You're right. We're gonna go to that place, Andrew. And we're going to do it not only for us, but for Dad too.
And for Amelia? I thought for a few seconds about the next sentence I was going to say. When I felt ready, I verbalized it.
It's what he would have wanted.
Sure. Andrew made a smile, closed his eyes, and nodded his head.
That's the Madison I know.
We both let out a small laugh, then fell silent. There was still a lot of planning to do, and we still had to face the hard task of convincing Claire that this was a good idea. But we still had plenty to fight for, and we weren't willing to lose another life. I'll let Claire know then. I just hope she's willing to cooperate. Oh, of course she's going to cooperate. There's nothing left for her to do. She has nothing left. Well then, let's not waste any more time. We must rest very well. Tomorrow will be a hard day. Yeah, you're right. I thought Madison just said, I am not going to rest until I do the thing. But now, time to rest. Let's go. Bye-bye. Good night. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me, Andy. I think we both needed this. What the fuck? It was nothing. I'm happy to do it. Flash him one last smile before walking out of Dad's office. We both went to our respective rooms and didn't cross words again for the rest of the night. Yeah, because it's awkward. This had been one of the most intense conversations we had in a long time. I must admit that I missed when we used to sit and talk so comfortably about deep issues. Perhaps the only motivation we needed to keep going through all this was ourselves. We had to find that strength that has always united us as siblings to gather momentum and have the courage to take on the world. And for today, that was all we could do. We could only pray that tomorrow would be a better day. If only. The day started with a great weather, clear skies and fresh air. I was sitting in an uncomfortable chair, staring at my cell phone, counting down by the minute as I waited for Andrew to return. It looked like the ticket office was full of people and it wasn't being an easy task for my brother to get tickets. The train station was particularly busy, with dozens and dozens of people arriving as the day progressed. Just the thought that many people would know we were here already made me back off a little. It's not like we were all traveling freely with consent from our families. In fact, we were in this place through a few lies we told Mom. We even still had our school uniform on. We would have preferred to wear more comfortable clothes, but if we returned home, Mom was going to find out about our plan, something that would play against us. Much more so, considering that Mom has the assurance that we are taking classes inside the school, which is a lie for obvious reasons. After spending several minutes talking to myself, and when I was starting to get impatient, I finally saw a familiar face. A girl wearing a school uniform with her hands hidden behind her back and a nervous expression. No, it's not. Her hands are in front. They're not in the back. Hey.
Huh.
For a moment there, we thought you weren't going to make it. You took too long.
I'm sorry.
It hasn't been an easy day.
Huh?
Well then. I was about to break Claire for her lateness, but something else caught my attention. There were bruise marks on Claire's cheeks, barely visible because they were concealed with makeup, but still noticeable. What the hell happened to your face? Please don't yell. My parents don't know I'm here. I don't want anyone to recognize me. Please, I don't want to talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Just going to say that I'm not living with my parents, but I can't talk about it too much for my own safety. Actually, I think we should hurry. I don't want to spend one more second in public. You can tell me if you need anything, you know. Claire, I know we're not best friends by a long shot, but you really have my full support in dealing with the situation, whatever it is. Claire arched her eyebrows and nodded as she held back her teary eyes. Thank you. Andrew arrived at a moment's notice, brightening the situation with his mere presence. As he approached me, he waved with a smile and shook the hand in which he was holding the tickets.
You got it.
Here are the tickets. Sorry for the wait. God, you took too long. I'm starting to get impatient. Yeah, there's a crazy amount of people. I think a lot of them are traveling for the Spring Festival. The Spring Festival? Forgotten all about that. He looked down as I stared at the tickets, waiting for someone else to continue the conversation.
Claire, thank you so much for being here too. I know it was very sudden to let you know in the wee hours of the morning that we were going out of town. I'm really sorry about that.
It's kind of weird that we're going out of town so suddenly.
I know, you don't even have to say it. I also apologize for making this plan seem so weird. It was all my idea.
Besides, why do you suspect that everything that's happening to us has something to do with that faraway place?
I know. Put like that, it seems like what we're going to do doesn't make any sense. But I have suspicions of something that may be at least a clue as to what's happening to us. And I can't confirm it. But Dad also has some particular interest in the tribes in that area. So it may be a starting point. A place through which to pick up some clue. After all, the book we found that night also belonged to the tribes. At least there's a little connection.
We were all reluctant to go down such a risky route so far from our homes. Andrew himself seemed to be feeling a little nervous about his expedition as well. Even I myself felt that none of this had any purpose. But we had no choice. We could no longer wait for the situation to magically resolve itself. That's why we were here, to take action and not let things happen on their own. We were here because our destiny belonged to us and no one else. Train Brown for Broken Field is approaching. Thank you for using the Macmillan Coal. Something line. We all turned to look as soon as we heard the loudspeaker announcement.
That's our train.
Yeah, looks like it.
Come on. There's no time to waste.
Andrew squeezed the tickets tightly as we approached the doors of the train that pulled into the station. Not many people seemed to be traveling to the same place, as only 2 other people besides us got on the train. That alone indicated a bad omen of the remote place we were headed for. Now we had reached the point of no return. We were in for this adventure. There was no turning back. I mean, there's plenty of turning back, but you know, it had been several hours since we boarded the train. What the hell? Why are we in the sky now? Our trip was accompanied by a beautiful sunset visible from the window and a cold breeze that calmed my nerves a bit. No doubt neither of us was entirely up for this trip, but at least the ride was being mildly enjoyable. If it weren't for the fact that I had in my mind that there was some sort of curse happening to us, I would have dared to say it was even exciting. At least it wasn't being a torture to ride the train, even though we were precisely alone and had been sitting for hours without doing anything but sitting. Not a word was uttered by either of us during the ride. To be honest, I didn't feel like talking to anyone until then either. I was sitting in a nice seat waiting patiently for the announcement that we would soon be arriving at our destination. But the place we were going to seemed to be much farther away than we had originally thought. That was starting to make me nervous again. After a few minutes, I took a bottle of water from my backpack and drank the liquid. I sighed after drinking a good amount, making me recover a little of the negative emotions I was carrying with me. Now I felt ready to face the remaining time before reaching our destination. It was amazing how that destination was so many hours away from Ricerfield City. When Andrew mentioned that we were going on a trip to the country, I didn't think he meant anything that far away. In fact, I don't think either of us imagined it would take us that long to get to the address we had. Fortunately, it wasn't more than half an hour before the train announced that it would stop at the next station. It was certainly a relief to know that the journey, which seemed to have taken forever, was no longer so far away. On the other hand, what worried me now was that we would have to go the same way back and we would be returning home in the night. Get a hotel or something. We left the train station, capturing a beautiful landscape all around us. Green was the most abundant color with plants, trees, and beautiful vegetation in general. Undoubtedly, what we enjoyed most of all was the fresh air, something that had ceased to exist in the city several years ago. It's been a long time since we visited a place like this, don't you think, Madison? Yeah, what I'm most excited about is that we're in a place that Dad loved. He always said the countryside was good. I remember him saying that this pleasant air was great for recharging your energy, making you a better person. Dad was one of those people with whom you could have a very pleasant conversation without feeling uncomfortable no matter how much time passed. I looked at Andrew with a nostalgic smile. Remembering Dad is something that made us feel a little melancholy for obvious reasons. Well, good for you guys that you two had a great dad. Claire, on the other hand, oh boy. It's a wound that will remain open for a long time, but there's still hope that little by little the pain will dissipate until only the good memories remain. The subject we had touched on seemed to be a little sensitive for us. Especially considering what Claire was going through, this wasn't easy for her. I really don't think we should talk about this anymore. Seems awkward to talk nicely about Dad knowing that Claire's father has been violent towards her. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that is very correct. Now, I thought it would be a good time to change the subject and remember that it was getting late. I know it may be a little rude to cut off the conversation at this point, but it seems to me that we should hurry.
Not happening.
It won't be long before it gets dark. It's going to be very complicated to find a way to get back later.
You got it.
Okay, if we walk fast enough, we'll make it to the side before it gets dark. After suggesting that we hurry, we finally started walking as a group into town. It may seem a little bit rushed, but I was actually afraid that we wouldn't find our way back and we would have to stay in this place. After all, we didn't know anyone, and we didn't have enough money to pay for a hotel or something similar. So getting to that address was our highest priority. Alright, I'll be back to forget stretch, boys. We were walking for several minutes along the main road to town. The three of us were still in our school uniforms, which attracted the attention of the few townspeople who happened to run into us. Undoubtedly, we looked like foreigners who came for a very specific reason, which was true. We had once visited this place with Dad, but he had so many years ago that it felt like we were experiencing it for the first time. We made sure not to make any stops, not even to buy snacks. The truth is, we were pretty short on time, and stopping would have taken several minutes.
It could be.
I think we should stop for a second to make sure we're going where we want to go.
I don't get it.
I haven't seen any sign of the Broken Field River, much less its mouth.
You think so?
Then I think we should ask someone, don't you? I looked both ways, checking to see if there were people nearby. On our right side came a middle-aged man with his scowl and clenched fist. He didn't look like our best option for calling for help. On the left side, an older, thin, white-haired lady came walking slowly. Wait here for a second, I'll go ask that person. I approached slowly towards the lady with a smile on my face and with my hands clasped together to give a better appearance.
Good afternoon. I hope you're having a good day, ma'am.
Oh, but what a pretty little girl. And you look like a student. Tell me, is there anything I can do for you?
Thank you for the compliment. Yes, I'd like to ask you something.
Ah, is this a survey, pretty girl?
No, not at all. I would just like to know which road we should take to get to the Brokenfield River.
Brokenfield River? Why do you want to go there? You don't mind telling me?
Oh, you see, my friends and I are doing research on the tribes that inhabited in and around Reisterfield, like this town. And, well, we would like to visit the Brokenfield River, as it seems to have a connection with the natives here.
The lady raised her right hand and gently placed it on my cheek.
It would be a disgrace, a terrible disgrace for you to risk your life to find such a place.
I showed a gesture of surprise and confusion as I tried to understand what the woman was referring to.
But why do you say that, ma'am?
I don't want to be a downer, But in order to get to that river, you first must have to go through a forest.
A forest of getting lost. The lost forest of Risterfield.
There's a reason why in the town we call it the Forest of Sorrowful Souls.
Oh man, and here I thought we were going inside the forest of cute little bunnies. A creepy feeling came over me as soon as I heard the name of the place. The woman lowered her hand from my face and turned her gaze toward the road.
It's that way. Look.
Where? She raised her hand and held up her index finger, pointing toward the place we were already headed.
But that's a good sign. All this time we've been walking this route, which means we weren't that lost.
Wait, what? No talking? Okay. This. What a way to waste the youth and beauty you possess. Anyway, everyone makes their own decisions and I won't be the one to judge you. The woman looked away from me and started to go on her way, having lost any interest in the conversation.
Wait, why do you say I shouldn't go there?
People die over there.
Oh no, not at all. I never said that. It's just that many lives have been lost inside that forest, long before they got to the Broken Field River. In my long life, I've only met one person who came back alive from that place.
Was it Dad?
What? And what happened to him?
Oh, there's not so much to say about that poor boy. He's lived locked up in a sane asylum ever since. And to this day, the doctors have given no hope of his coming to his senses.
I was perplexed when the woman told me of the young man's fate. I didn't know what else to say, and all I could do was swallow my breath, try to find the catchphrase.
Thank you very much for your help, ma'am. You've been very kind.
Thanks for everything. What kind of catchphrase? Nice. This is so dumb. The woman did return my gaze and just continued on her way, ignoring any attempt of mine to continue speaking. My eyes were wide as saucers, as she had definitely left me thinking what the older lady warned me about. The Forest of Sorrowful Souls. That didn't sound encouraging at all, and I was even more worried that this was a stopping place before we reached our destination. And after a few seconds of internal reflection, I turned to the others. Tried to tell them about the warning the lady had given me, but I wasn't able to. So I just told them that we were going the right way. And that was all I could do for the moment. Oh no, we're gonna get lost. We continued walking for almost half an hour before we reached the outskirts of the forest. The sun was getting lower and lower, discouraging any hope that we were going to return home early. The quietness that abandoned around us was disturbing, as we could not see any living thing near us, at least at first glance. Ahead of us lay a towering forest, full of trees everywhere we looked, with no sign of a river on the other side. None of us seemed too keen to venture into the depths of that place, and with good reason. Without having mentioned the older woman's warning to them, the others seemed very worried in themselves. I couldn't imagine how they would be if I told them what I heard.
It could be.
So, the river is on the other side of the forest, right?
On it.
That's what the lady told me.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah, who will take the first step? No one dared to answer Claire's question. Noticing that none of us dared to take the initiative to enter, Andrew stepped forward and raised his voice, because I am a man.
You got it.
Don't worry. I'll go first.
Why would you do that?
That's a terrible idea, Andrew. Come on, I'll just go in first. I'm not going to stay in there alone. As soon as we've gone through a few trees, follow my lead. I'll meet you in there.
Not for me.
We have no choice. Besides, someone has to take the initiative. I crossed my arms and remained silent. I didn't want anything to happen to my brother, but the situation was already too tense on its own to accept a separation at this point. You know what? I'm coming with you. I can't let you go alone. Like you're the hero of the story or something. I don't think anything's going to happen to me. Besides,
You dumbass.
nothing will happen to you because we will go with you. End this discussion. Either we all go or no one goes.
You serious?
Damn, you can be really persuasive sometimes.
You got it.
Alright, let's start walking then. We all know how to make sure to show bravery in front of each other, even if deep down we were scared to death. And there was also no way for us to feel reassured as we were all waiting for the trip to end badly, one way or another. So many things would go wrong, and just imagining them already gave me a pounding heart headache. I thought it said heartache. But the worries only increased as the minutes passed, and the road became more and more confusing. With each step we took, the more we wanted to just turn around and pretend none of this had happened. Still, none of us were able to utter anything beyond the occasional motivational phrase to keep us from giving up. Oopsie. I have to edit here, fellas, because I have to prepare for work now, so let's save at number 4. Yeah. So this is The Devil's Whisper. Okay, who's gonna die next? If you want to try the game for yourselves, the links are in the description. That is all for today. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.